Cardi finally accepted to pay Offset spousal support. And this man done asked for 70% of everything?
Cardi B finally agreed to pay Offset spousal support, but when he demanded 70% of everything she owns, the internet completely lost it. Wait till you hear how this drama really started. On October 6, 2025, On Purpose with Jay Shady released a heartfelt and deeply introspective episode featuring none other than Cardi B, known globally for her unapologetic authenticity, vibrant personality, and chart-topping hits. Cardi used this conversation to pull back the curtain on her private world, a side fans rarely get to see. The episode wasn't just about her music career or her fame. It became a raw, emotional exploration of love, loss, accountability, and the long journey of rediscovering oneself after heartbreak. Throughout the discussion, Cardi opened up about her breakup with Offset, speaking with a kind of emotional maturity and honesty that made the conversation feel less like a celebrity interview and more like a therapy session between two people reflecting on what it means to heal. She described the loneliness that followed their separation, the moments of doubt, and the conflicting emotions of missing someone who once felt like home while knowing the relationship no longer served her peace. Her vulnerability struck a chord with listeners, many of whom have walked the same path of loving deeply, losing painfully, and trying to rebuild from the ruins. But what made this episode truly compelling was how Cardi didn't present herself as a victim. She framed her experience as a process of learning, growth, and acceptance. She spoke candidly about the importance of taking accountability, not just for what went wrong in the relationship, but for the choices she made while trying to hold it together. Cardi explained how the breakup forced her to confront the parts of herself that needed healing, the insecurities, the patterns of emotional dependence, and the fear of being alone. Through that process, she learned that real healing isn't about moving on quickly. It's about slowing down enough to face your pain and learning to love yourself again, piece by piece. Jay Shady guided the conversation with empathy, encouraging Cardi to explore how fame complicates emotional recovery. Cardi admitted that the spotlight can sometimes magnify personal pain. Every rumor, every social media comment, every headline becomes a reminder of something you're trying to move past. Yet, instead of allowing public perception to define her narrative, she decided to reclaim her own story. "You can't heal in the same environment that hurt you," she reflected, explaining how she had to create emotional distance, even from people who once felt like her entire world. The episode also touched on how her creative process has evolved. Through this emotional transformation, Cardi revealed that heartbreak, while painful, had sharpened her sense of authenticity in her music. "I rap about what I live," she said, emphasizing that art has always been her therapy, a place where she can transform pain into power. Fans could hear the strength in her voice as she talked about turning her experiences into something meaningful, something that other women could relate to and draw strength from. What listeners took away from the episode was not just Cardi B the superstar, but Cardi the human being, a woman who's faced betrayal, public scrutiny, and emotional exhaustion, yet continues to rise with resilience and self-awareness. Her story became a lesson in self-respect and emotional accountability, that growth often requires walking away, even when love is still present, and that healing isn't linear but deeply transformative. By the end of the episode, Cardi left listeners with a powerful reminder that life doesn't stop when love ends. It evolves. The cracks that heartbreak leaves behind don't signify weakness. They mark where light can enter, where healing begins. In a culture obsessed with perfection and public validation, Cardi's honesty felt like a breath of fresh air, a reminder that true strength lies not in pretending to have it all together, but in being brave enough to admit when you don't, and still choosing to move forward anyway.
Not contact this person for a month. I will not give in. I will not forgive this easy. I will not go back. I will not go to the pattern. I will not go through it. But I was crying every day. I was hurt every day. I was out here in LA in a mansion by myself. I was thinking about it every single day. And when your heart is not done, your heart is not done. I'm pregnant. I'm going to accept my flaws, the flaws that I bring in this marriage. I'm going to apologize for it, and I'm going to work on it.
In this moment, Cardi opens up about her time alone in Los Angeles, revealing the emotional tug-of-war that defined her healing journey. Away from the noise, cameras, and constant online commentary, she found herself in a quiet but uncomfortable space, one that forced her to sit with her emotions rather than escape them. Los Angeles, a city known for its glamour and movement, became a mirror of contradiction for her, surrounded by light, but wrestling with shadows. She She explained how difficult it was to truly disconnect from someone who had been such an integral part of her life. Despite her best efforts to stay strong and resist reaching out to Offset, old habits and emotional attachments often pulled her back. It wasn't that she lacked strength, rather, it was the complexity of loving someone who had hurt her deeply but still felt familiar. That inner conflict between logic and longing created a painful rhythm in her days. A loop that seemed impossible to escape. Cardi described moments of deep introspection during those nights alone. The silence after a breakup can feel deafening, especially when your entire relationship once existed in a world filled with sound, laughter, arguments, studio sessions, the hum of shared life. In her solitude, she came face to face with herself, stripped of distractions. She started to realize that healing doesn't happen in a straight line. It's messy, non-linear, and full of emotional relapses. Sometimes, you convince yourself you're over someone, only to find yourself missing them again the next morning. She admitted that the hardest part wasn't just letting go of Offset, but letting go of the version of herself that existed in that relationship. For years, she had defined parts of her identity through their connection, as partners in love, as co-parents, as public figures constantly under scrutiny. To step away meant to rediscover who Cardi was when the cameras weren't rolling, and the relationship wasn't defining her narrative. I had to remember that I was me before I was anyone's wife, she reflected, emphasizing the importance of reclaiming her individuality. Yet, even in those moments of weakness, when she found herself tempted to return, each setback brought her closer to clarity. Cardi began to understand that revisiting old wounds doesn't heal them, it only keeps them open. Each time she went back, she realized a little more that the comfort she sought wasn't in rekindling the relationship, but in learning to nurture herself. The repeated cycle of leaving and returning eventually became her greatest teacher, showing her how attachment and love are not always the same thing. What makes this part of Cardi's story so relatable is how human it feels. So many people find themselves in that same emotional loop, trying to move forward while still being pulled backward by memories, hope, and what-ifs. Cardi's honesty about her struggle strips away the illusion that healing is a glamorous, picture-perfect process. It's often full of tears, frustration, and nights spent overthinking in silence. By sharing these experiences, Cardi sheds light on something deeply universal: the idea that self-growth often begins in isolation. She learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means giving yourself space to heal without needing someone else to fill the void. Los Angeles, once a city tied to chaos and confusion in her life, transformed into a place of renewal and self-discovery. Ultimately, this period marked a turning point in her story, not just as a woman recovering from heartbreak, but as an individual reclaiming her power. It taught her that strength isn't found in never looking back, but in finally realizing that you don't need to anymore. Through that realization, Cardi began to rebuild not just her sense of independence, but her peace, her confidence, and her voice. And that, perhaps, became her truest comeback, one not defined by fame, but by
funding. She also got pregnant, you know what I'm saying, with another man's child while we was legally married. So you know what the judge say? The judge say, yeah, go and let her pay that spousal support to you. Offset was just going broke, complaining about money. Now all of a sudden, Offset in the money, thanks to Cardi.
Cardi B shared that she had done everything she could to take accountability for her role in the relationship. Yet it still fell apart. When Offset refused to do the same, she made the difficult decision to walk away. Her reward, as she put it, was harsh. News spreading that she was expecting a child with someone else. But Cardi refused to be shamed for living her truth. She reminded everyone that when she first fell in love, she did things the right way. She got married, wore 2 rings, and stayed committed for 7 years. Years she says she didn't owe to anyone. Despite public assumptions, Cardi clarified that she and Offset are legally separated, not emotionally tied. The reason their divorce isn't finalized, she explained, is because Offset allegedly refuses to sign the papers unless she covers his taxes and hands over one of her properties. This isn't love, she insisted. I'm not going to stop living my life just because someone's holding me hostage on paper. According to Cardi, Offset's demands have escalated. Reports claim he wants a 70/30 split of her assets instead of an even 50/50, along with spousal support. Fans have been outraged by this alleged imbalance, especially considering Cardi's success and Offset's past behavior. Many pointed out the irony. The man who repeatedly betrayed her is now fighting for a larger share of what she built. While the details remain unverified and largely fueled by online chatter, the situation has reignited conversations about fairness, accountability, and how public relationships unravel under scrutiny. Rumors have recently surfaced suggesting that Cardi B might be expecting a child with NFL player Stefon Diggs, which many believe could be fueling Offset's frustration and resentment toward her. While their breakup has been public and complex, the emotional undercurrent runs deep. Cardi has admitted to taking accountability for her part in their relationship struggles, but many observers argue that Offset's lingering anger stems from something more personal. One incident in particular stands out. Cardi once shared a photo of their son with a hairstyle identical to Stefon Diggs's. To some, it appeared to be a harmless coincidence, but to Offset, it felt like a provocation. Shortly afterward, he posted an emotional message online, warning people not to troll with my kid, emphasizing how deeply that moment cut him as a father. While Offset has admitted to his past mistakes and infidelities, this act, in his view, crossed a boundary that made reconciliation impossible. Beyond their personal tension, some have argued that Offset feels entitled to a portion of Cardi's success because of the role he played early in her career. Before they met, Cardi was a social media personality and budding entertainer who hadn't yet fully broken into the music industry. Offset, already established as part of Migos, ALLEGEDLY, helped her navigate the business side of hip-hop and avoid being exploited by labels. Supporters of Offset claim he contributed to her early growth, though Cardi's massive success has long since become her own. Still, conversations online have taken a broader turn. Critics question why Cardi, with all her fame and resources, continues to attract partners who seem to bring more chaos than stability. Some frame it as a reflection of deeper dynamics within celebrity relationships, where financial and emotional imbalances create tension, and where love often gets tangled with ego and power. This situation has reignited a much larger cultural discussion, one that extends far beyond Cardi B and Offset's personal drama. It touches on the evolving dynamics of modern relationships, particularly when women achieve financial power and success that may surpass their partners. As gender roles continue to shift, the traditional expectations of who provides, who sacrifices, and who deserves what in a relationship are being rewritten in real time. For decades, the financial structure of romantic relationships in the public eye leaned in one direction. Men were expected to be the providers, the financial backbone, while women were often positioned as supporters, nurturers, or dependents. But now, with more women than ever achieving independence and wealth through their own ambition, artistry, and business ventures, the narrative has begun to reverse. And not everyone knows how to handle that reversal gracefully. The Cardi B and Offset saga is a perfect example of how those evolving expectations can clash. Here we have two people who both rose from humble beginnings to international fame, yet their journeys and how society perceives them differ sharply. Cardi's empire was built on resilience, charisma, and reinvention. She went from a Bronx-born hustler to a Grammy-winning artist, entrepreneur, and cultural icon. Offset, equally successful in his own right, built his brand as part of Migos, one of hip-hop's most influential groups. But when two powerful personalities share a spotlight, especially in a world that still quietly expects men to lead, tensions can emerge when the woman's light begins to shine brighter. This isn't just about money, it's about ego, identity, and how love gets tangled in power. When a man feels financially or publicly overshadowed, it can challenge deeply ingrained notions of masculinity. For women, success can come with the double-edged sword of independence, admired by many, yet resented by some. The friction that arises from this imbalance can erode even the strongest relationships if both partners aren't emotionally secure in their roles. In Cardi and Offset's case, rumors of financial disputes and demands for spousal support have become symbols of this broader social shift. More men are now seeking a share of their partner's assets or requesting financial compensation after separation, something that was once almost exclusively associated with women in divorce proceedings. And while the law supports equality in such claims, public perception hasn't caught up. When men seek spousal support, they're often labeled as opportunistic. When women do, it's seen as justified. The double standard reveals how society still struggles to accept true equality, especially when it challenges traditional gender hierarchies. But beyond the legal or financial implications, this story exposes something more intimate: the collision between pride and pain in public relationships. For Cardi and Offset, their love life has never been entirely private. Every argument, reconciliation, and rumor plays out under millions of watchful eyes. And when personal wounds are magnified by fame, they rarely heal quietly. The need to protect one's image often overshadows the need to protect one's peace. It's easy for outsiders to label their situation as celebrity drama, but beneath the surface lies a deeply human story. It's about two people navigating heartbreak while the world weighs in on their choices. It's about how love can become performance art when lived on social media, and how, once the spotlight fades, what remains is often loneliness, regret, and reflection. Cardi's openness about her pain and accountability makes her story particularly resonant. She represents a generation of women learning that vulnerability doesn't equal weakness and that walking away can be an act of empowerment, not defeat. What's fascinating about this cultural moment is how it's forcing both men and women to redefine success and partnership. When both partners bring financial power to the table, emotional intelligence becomes the true currency of love. It's no longer about who provides the paycheck, it's about who provides peace, balance, and mutual respect. Yet, that's easier said than done, especially in relationships shaped by fame, temptation, and public scrutiny. In the digital age, relationships don't just exist between two people, they exist between two people and millions of spectators. Every post, every unfollow, every lyric becomes part of the narrative. For celebrities like Cardi B and Offset, privacy is nearly impossible, and that pressure often turns small issues into public scandals. The court of public opinion can be harsher than any legal court, and the echoes of judgment can make reconciliation or healing even harder. Their story also invites reflection on how society treats women who take control of their narrative. Cardi has faced criticism for everything from her music to her motherhood, yet she continues to assert ownership over her choices. Her willingness to speak candidly about accountability, love, and letting go disrupts the long-standing notion that women should remain silent or submissive in the face of relationship turmoil. In many ways, she's redefining what it means to be both powerful and human, a woman who can dominate charts, face heartbreak, and still rise with dignity. Offset, on the other hand, embodies the modern man caught between tradition and transformation. His reported demands and emotional reactions reflect a struggle many men experience in the postmodern dating world, reconciling their desire for equality with the discomfort of losing traditional dominance. It's not about villainizing him, it's about understanding that both genders are being forced to unlearn old scripts that no longer serve them. Ultimately, this isn't merely gossip, it's a microcosm of how relationships evolve when love intersects with ego, money, and fame. It's a mirror held up to a society still figuring out what equality truly means in romantic partnerships. Cardi B and Offset's story is messy, emotional, and deeply revealing. It reminds us that even in a world of luxury and limelight, the core challenges of love remain the same: communication, trust, respect, and the courage to grow together or apart. As their private wounds continue to unfold in public view, their story becomes more than entertainment. It becomes a lesson, one about how pride can destroy connection, how money can complicate love, and how healing, when done publicly, requires unimaginable strength. It's a cautionary tale, yes, but also a reflection of our times, proof that even when the world is watching, the hardest battles are still the ones fought quietly within the heart.